It's me, Capri. My mommy is the best. Super mom, lumpy best. She helps mommy get their smiles back. Their giggles back. And their sparkle back. You wait for the show. Brush. Get ready for that super slippery. That super slap.
Welcome to the Healing for the Soul podcast, sponsored by Robin Stoltman, with this being season number 6, episode number 20. If you are ever looking for a virtual assistant who can edit your social media content, grow your social medias, book clients, and much more that all businesses require, I highly recommend Sphere Rocket for all your virtual assistant needs. The link to Sphere Rocket is at the bottom of this episode. And before we get started, I am your host, Robin Stoltman, and every week I feature different guests to help you become the best version of yourself through different methods you may not have heard of or thought of. So make sure to subscribe and share this podcast, and also keep coming back for more. And today I have my guest, Tommy Kilpatrick, who wrote a book and was so successful that he contracted with an infomercial company. For 6 months, Kilpatrick lived on his 3 credit cards to be available for radio interviews to promote his book in anticipation of making the promised $100,000 a month. One of the other authors contracted with the same company got in trouble with misleading information. So all the new authors' contracts were canceled, and Kilpatrick was left holding the bag of $85,000 of credit card debt. And today he is on the show talking about nuke your credit card debt and is it moral? So let's get started. Thank you so much, Tommy, for being here with our audience today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm excited.
Well, I am too. So what happened to this $85,000 worth of debt?
Oh, that kind of put me in a bit of depression, of course, and about a month. And then one morning I woke up, I was thinking about my dad being a CPA, and I was in school to be a CPA. Even though I never got their credential, I could do the work. And I realized that the bank never had an invoice. And that's what everything's all based on, of debt. So I know the bank didn't have a debt. And then I remember my banking class, and in there we had the manual Modern Money Mechanics. And on page 6, which is in your show notes, it says right there that banks accept your promissory note and they write numbers into your free checking account. So that's how they make loans. I never signed a promissory note. My father-in-law at the time was a judge and an attorney, and we had long conversations about the fraud undoes all contracts. So I had no contractual agreement with the bank. And with his help, I filed 3 federal lawsuits against the banks by myself. And that's how things got started.
Wow, that's fascinating. So then what about like the credit card debt? Like how can a person nuke that?
Right. That's a
Like
very good question.
how did you do it?
And well, first of all, I'm going to say to your audience, don't believe me. Don't believe a word I have to say. Look in the show notes. There's 3 links, and you can check them out yourself. And send this podcast to your CPA or anyone who's had one class of accounting, and ask them to read a chapter of my book or watch this podcast, and they'll tell you I'm right. I'm 100% correct. So with that being said, I want you to verify everything I have to say. So how do you nuke your credit card debt? Because law is language. Language is law. So if you say you have credit card debt, you've got it, and you've got to pay it, okay? Now, we watch on television a bank robbery, and we always say alleged. So all I'm asking your audience to do is add one word, is the word alleged. So now the honest, or I'm trying to pronounce the right word there, but now the burden, that's right, the burden is on the bank to bring to court the documents, or you request them, they have to prove that there's a debt. And since they can't, there's no debt, there's no loan. You don't owe them anything.
Because they don't have the promissory note, the credit card.
Yeah. Well, if we just look at this true credit card, now I ask the question, is this moral? And on the one side, it's immoral not to pay your credit card. Okay, wait a second. You're confusing my audience. All right. So there are true credit cards. Now think about this. You need tires for your car. So you go into a tire store and you say, I just don't have the money right now. I'm getting a check. I've got a bonus coming. I got a refund check, but I need tires or I'm going to die if I don't, have these tires on my car. And they say, oh, well, why don't you fill out the in-store credit card application? And if you're approved, then great. You apply, you're approved. They put tires on your car, you drive away. Now that sounds just like a credit card because that's what it is. It's a merchant that has product that sold it to you with the promise that you were going to pay it back later, and you get a statement at the end of the month, which is true, and they have an outstanding unpaid invoice, which is true, and you owe it. Morally, legally, you have to pay that. Now, I'm saying alleged credit card debt. So how can you tell the difference? The one is the bank. So I am drawing a distinction between store credit card, which is a true credit card, and the bank issued one. So how can you tell the difference? Look on the back of Amazon, of Walmart, of any department store. And if it says issued by Bank of America, Citibank, Wells Fargo, Bank of London, Bank of Tokyo, any bank anywhere in the world, this works. Okay, so it's just not for America. So if it says Bank of America, then the bank never put tires on your car. Am I correct?
Yeah, the bank didn't.
Do that.
Walmart did. You just said it was Walmart. Yeah.
Right. But if it was a true store with their product and they have an invoice, now that's the biggest deal. Now, my first job as an accountant, the CPA came over to my desk, and I never met the guy, but he was very angry. He had a vein popping out of his throat, and he told me later he did this on purpose. He was a nice guy, but he always did this to the very first new hire. He put his finger in my face. He said, if you pay for my statement, I'm going to fire you. And just, you can see the red face and the vein popping out of his throat. I'm going, geez, the first guy I meet. And I'm like, oh, that stuck in my head. So he explained very nicely. He said, if we got if we paid these people last week, you don't know it. It's brand new, and you're going to write a check out and pay these people. We're paying them twice. So we don't do that. We never pay from a statement. Here's an invoice. See that? Yeah. But look over here. See the invoice with the department head okay? You wait for that signature. There's a stamp right over here in the upper right corner. So if you see a signature there by the department head, then that's authorized to pay. And you only pay from an invoice. The invoice has the date, the product, the taxes, the shipping, all the details, the terms and conditions. That is a true legitimate debt, and you have to pay that. So if you have an invoice, then that is documented debt. So when you put down the word credit card debt, it depends. Are you talking about a store issue or bank issue? So if it's a bank issue, then it's fraud. And there is a way that you can deal with this. You're basically a fraud victim. You're a victim of a crime, and I'm trying to help you and wake you up about this situation.
Ah, so Capital One, how does that work then now? So now I'm thinking, well, Capital One, for example, you've got debt that you owe to the Capital One. That wouldn't be a true credit card debt then, or true debt then, if I'm understanding correctly.
That's correct. And then you could say, well, what about American Express? Well, if you look them up, they're a bank. They just don't happen to have bank at the end of their name. So do your due diligence, look into it, and you can see which ones you pay and which ones you can claim that they're alleged. Now we have the bank issued, and from now on, you'll always hear me say bank issued alleged credit card debt, okay? Because law is language. If you use the words of the criminal, you're never going to win on this one, okay? And it's just same thing as I see in the world. I'm just going to jump over the Christianity question here for a second, because we hear right and left and all that kind of stuff. No, it's either you're with God and God is loving, and in Hebrew, the word love means I give. So God gave us life, and every day I'm thankful. Every minute I can never say thank you for this life. So we come from that. So if you are with God, you are giving, you are with life, you're either growing plants, you're raising animals, you're helping someone else, you're putting more energy into this. That is what the side is I'm on. I'm with you. Everybody who's not is on Satan's side. So all I do, I divide the whole world between God and Satan. So if you're with God, you're with me, I'm with you, I'm working with you, that's great. Anybody else is with Satan. So if you start using Satan's words, you're sunk. If you use the word right and left politically, no. Either you are in Hollywood and you're destroying the world and society, you're with Satan. And if you're in that Olympics opening ceremony, which is completely Satanistic, it is getting more and more obvious to you. So I start using now the language is either you're with God or you're with Satan. Make a choice. So my life is very simple. So either you're with God or you're with Satan. So if you start using the Satanistic words from the bank, you're never going to win this argument. So that's where we need to know that there was never a bill. There's never an invoice. So once we start with that, now we can shift to their other argument that there was a loan. Because we hear about this line of credit, revolving credit line, and you max out your cards. So all these words are used to keep you into the system and keep you with Satan. So start using God's words, start using the truth, okay? So how we do that is that all you have to do is write a letter to the bank requesting that you close your free checking account associated with that card. And that's all you got to do.
Really? Wow.
Okay.
No,
let's go back.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to the story of what happened to me. So I'm in federal court and things are going great. We have a deposition date coming up where the bank has to bring a bank employee to me and I get to ask them all the questions I want to ask them, and they have to answer them under penalty of perjury. Right?
Well, yeah.
So that's the thing. I can only think of what happened because all of a sudden I'm called into federal court in front of a federal judge, and he's going. So he called me into court and he said, "Mr. Kilpatrick, do you have a credit card?" Well, let me start at the beginning. Oh, we'll get to that later. And so he said, "Do you have a credit card?" I said, "Well, not really. It's a gift card." A gift card. Pull your card out. So I pulled my card out. And following the order of the judge, he says, "Read to me what that says." I said, "Credit card." He says, "You're an idiot. Get out of here." So he dismissed all three cases. So what happened?
Well,
I'm back to I'm going to get sued. I got $85,000 of credit card debt. Oh my gosh. And then 30 days later, I look at my credit report and they're gone. All three of those bank issued alleged credit card debt accounts were off my credit report. My credit report increased. My score improved a month later. And I never got a 1099-C. Now, this is important. I was raised by a CPA, so I have the IRS as part of my DNA to be a CPA. So,
no, this is good, though.
This is good. So a 1099-C is when the bank gives you a let's say $100,000 loan, and you pay nothing back. Well, you got $10,000. And so they notify the IRS that you got income. The only reason they do that is then they can take a $100,000 tax deduction. So on my case, they never issued a 1099 and they did not take an $85,000 tax deduction because there never was a loan. You see, in the pleading, I laid out the crimes that the bank had done. And if they would send me a 1099-C, I told them I was going to file a 3949A. What the heck is the IRS 3949A? Well, it's a form you fill out to notify the IRS of fraud. So I told them, if they did that, I'm going to notify the IRS that you're fraudulent. You're filing tax fraud. You're being a criminal and being in tax fraud by filing these false documents to the IRS. That's against the law.
Well, yeah, it is. So, you can't do that.
You can't do that. So it's a phony loan, and they did not take an $85,000 tax deduction, and I didn't have to pay taxes on my own money. So we'll kind of get into that. So what are we talking about?
Well, yeah, because now this is getting more interesting because I'm like thinking about how credit card companies, how they got the debt one is so that's revolving, yes,
revolving
but it's
credit.
Yeah, but the interest rate is so high, and then you can't. They make it so a person can't pay it back. So now I'm thinking about all the Bible verses about like the slave to the lender, like what Dave Ramsey has said, but that is in the Bible. I'm just saying the slave to the lender is in there. And then also it's like, I'm thinking about that. I'm like, yeah, that does make sense for
render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Yeah.
Yes.
But then we also have deceit. So there's a quote in there about deceit. So Satan deceives us all the time. So here's Satan's work again, deceiving us. So we have to stick to the truth. So now that we both agree that the bank could never have issued a credit card because they're not a merchant, okay? Now the argument shifts to a loan, but you can't have it both ways. You go into a merchant, you go into your like the general store years ago and say, hey, Charlie, I need 5 pounds of flour and a pound of sugar, and I'll pay you back when my crops come in. Oh yeah, we'll see you, in a few more months. That's not what happens. So they do not issue any kind of an invoice. They don't have a debt with you. So what banks do, they're all involved in loans. That's what's who. So when you walk into a bank without any money, you want to come out with money. Okay. And morally, by filling out a loan right, application. Now, let me ask you a question, Robin. Mm-hmm. If you apply for a loan and you're turned down, do you still get the loan?
No, you don't.
No, you're denied. You don't get the loan. But if you're approved for the application, then what do? You come into the bank and you fill out loan documents.
Yeah, lots of them.
Lots of it, because you also have to prove you have an income.
Yeah, and you got to prove who you are and all that.
Prove who you are, and you have some evidence of that. And you got to show an evidence of income. Because think about this. The judge asked the bank, you're giving loans to people who can't pay it back? That's predatory. So the bank knows that it's against the law. So you've got to make sure you do diligence on the bank side to make sure you prove you have this income to pay this back. Okay.
Yeah. So and if you don't got it, they won't give it. But credit card companies. Yeah. Because credit card companies, they don't even ask. I've got them, and they have never once asked to show any type of proof at all whatsoever, whether or not I can actually pay back. Like for like what a loan would, but then that would make sense then too. They're still able to affect your credit score at the same time, but at the same time, now that would make sense though, for like when a person has like the credit card debt versus a loan, that would make sense. Like you can, on your credit report is what I'm thinking of specifically in this, as like your credit report, the credit cards don't have a bigger impact as much as like a house loan or a vehicle loan to get another loan from the bank. Like my husband, he had just the credit cards. He wasn't even able to get a vehicle loan, even though we were paying on him. He couldn't get it because they said it was the wrong type of loan.
Right. So you want an installment loan because that's really a true loan. So you think about this. Well, the bank will accept any number you put down of your annual income. They don't even verify that, right? So on YouTube, there are people who tell you, put down 100,000, put down 200,000 because they don't verify. And so getting a $5,000 line credit, you get 100,000 or 50,000 or something like that. So put down any number you want because they don't verify, because it was never a loan.
That makes sense now. So that's why I was using like the examples that I'm thinking of and how that affects it. That's all I was getting at there for that little bit.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. So think this through. So you have to prove you have an income. Next, you have to have collateral. You have your house, you have your car, and let's say it's a personal loan and you use your yacht as a collateral. Because that's legally, the bank can take that away from you, sell it, get the money, and if they come up short, well, that's their problem, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if they come out long, meaning they actually make money on taking your property with you, they can't keep it. So if you owe the bank $100,000 and they have $1 million yacht, they don't keep $900,000. That's not the way it works. They got to give you back the $900,000. So you put up your yacht, they sold it, they got $100,000, they got to give you back $900,000 or whatever the difference is of what they sell it for. Okay. So you also have, like you said, a credit report to show something. They look at that credit report and say, credit cards, it's not a debt. They know that. So you're not having any skin in the game. No one ever verified you have income. They don't even verify who you are. And you certainly didn't put up any collateral. So think about this. Yeah, think about this. You buy a fractional, I'm just doing it very simple, a fractional share of a bank stock. Okay, they have fractional shares now. So you buy a fractional share and now you're actually a bank shareholder. So it's your bank. Now, would you want your bank to loan out your money to people who can't pay it back?
No.
That'd be crazy. You'd not tolerate that.
No,
Right.
I wouldn't.
Now, would you loan out your money to people who don't promise to pay it back?
No.
No, you'd never do that. So you have your credit score, like you said, determines your interest rate, and that's the interest rate for the loan. The last thing you sign is a promissory note. You have to promise to pay it back. So if I give you something, that's called a gift. Okay. If I loan you something, then there's got to be some meeting of the minds that I loaned this thing to you. You either pay it on portion of it, or you pay it a lump sum, or you do it. And I actually have some collateral, it'd be good to have. So if you don't have that, that's your problem, but you have a loan. So the bank never loans you anything in this scenario, in this credit card. They loaned you the money for the car, for the house, for whatever you action for. If you have collateral, that's a true loan. Okay. So what happens to this thing? So what banks do is they have an advertising budget to get you as a customer. Am I right?
Yeah, they do.
Of course. Right. So they spend money to get you as a customer. Years ago, they would purchase toasters and wall clocks and have them in the bank. And if you went in and opened up one, you get a choice. Do you want a wall clock or you get a toaster? Oh, I'll take a toaster. Back in the 50s, it was a big deal to have a toaster. So how do you get people to get to be a customer? And one time there was an ad in the paper that I looked at, and it said, come into our bank and deposit $25. And in 90 days, we'll match it. So what did I do? I took my $25, put it into my savings account, that's what it was, and waited 91 days, went into the bank and withdrew $50. I took my 25 and I took the bank's $25, right? Think this through. I took my 25 out, I put in 91 days ago, and I took $25 from the bank, and that's $50, and I closed my account and walked out. I have a question for you, Robin. Did I rip off the bank?
No, because they said that they would match it.
Right. And did I steal $25 from the bank? Is that immoral? Back up to your title is very good, important to this whole point. Is this immoral what I did? Was that immoral what I did?
No, because the bank said that they would give you the $25 if you kept your account for 90 days. And you wait until the 91st day. Right.
So there's a show link of the in your show notes. There's a link number 4 that there's a guy on YouTube says, I made $361 so far doing just what Tommy says. I find banks that want to match. I then put my money in. I wait the time. The next day, I close the account. I keep the money. I made $361. I'm going, well, great for you. He didn't call me personally, but I'm cheering the guy on because here's the example of what people, and that's not immoral, as we both agree. That's not immoral. It's the same thing with your $500 credit card that came in the mail without even a solicitation. You remember that people got cards without even asking because that was a gift. Those were gift cards, like a toaster, to send you a toaster to entice you to come to the bank. Some people kept the toaster and never even came into the bank. Well, that's their problem, right? So here is what they do. They send these $500 credit cards out to anybody and everybody, not even people breathing. They've had them with their own dogs, right? So how did a dog get a credit card? They just fill it out. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Now, what's the whole point of this? Is going to get you as a customer. Well, what's that do? I did this 2 months ago. You type it up yourself. You type up on Google, how much does a bank make on an average credit card holder? And it's $23.04 per month. So if a bank has 1 million customers, the 1 million cardholders, they're going to bring in $23 million a month. So I did the calculation. It's about 1/4 of their profits. So all these banks worldwide are committing a fraud on us to make $23.04 on average. All those fees, the annual fee, the late fee, the transfer fee, the annual fee, all these fees, the interest on your own money. So what is going on here? So you have to kind of think it through. And here's what happens is that they're fraudulently telling you that you have to pay $23.04 on average on a free checking account. What free checking account? Okay. Think this through.
Yeah.
You didn't even apply for the card. You applied for the card and you got it, but you never filled out any loan documents. You had to prove no income. You have no credit report, no credit score. Well, based on their credit score, they might we'll give you more if you have a better credit score. And they gave you, that's the important question. They gave you the credit card. So a credit card came in the mail. I would call it a gift card. If you use Satan's words, it's a credit card. We know, we just talked about they're not a merchant. So they couldn't have ever issued you credit. They're not. So they're in the business of being with Satan. So here you're dealing with Satan. So
that explains a lot.
Yeah. So here's the story. So they sent this to you to get you to be a customer.
Yeah.
So you got a gift card in the mail. That's the truth. That's God's work. You got a gift out of heaven. Fantastic. So what'd you do with this gift? You went to, let's say, Home Depot, and you bought a toilet, a golden throne. So you're walking out with a golden throne, and the person at the door says, wait a second, sir, did you pay for that? And you have a receipt.
Yeah.
Now, you didn't have $500. You went into a merchant, and you're walking out with a $500 toilet without paying them. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But the store doesn't let people walk out with toilets without paying for it. So they got paid that night or the next day. Who paid Home Depot?
Well, the credit card. Well,
that night, the bank. Right, the credit card, the bank.
Yeah.
The bank did. So where did the bank get this money? From their advertising budget.
That would make sense.
There's no loan.
Yeah.
So if you don't sign a promissory note, there never was a loan. So this was a promotion. This was an inducement to get you to be a customer. So they gave you this $500 credit card, knowing they're going to make $23.04 every month on you. So at a certain point, in about 23 months, right, they're going to get their $500 back. And now you pay these extremely high interest rates, all these fees for the rest of 20, 30, 40 years, and they're making money. They're making money. It's all it is. It's about bringing money into the bank illegally. Okay. So you get a statement at the end of the month, correct? And it shows that you owe this money. And if you don't pay, we've got interest, we got late fees, we got all these fees, and you're going to be taken to court, harass you, and you're going to lose.
Yeah, they want to take a person to court. Yeah.
Right. So here's a question for you, your audience, and to me too. Is it possible that you have been lied to, indoctrinated, and brainwashed? Is it possible?
100%, yes.
100%. So a lie is a lie. We know that. But what happens when it's generational? What happens if your parents, the parents' all tell you it's a credit card and a debt and you owe it? What happens when all the attorneys tell you? What happens if all the news tells you? What happens if the judges tell you? It's indoctrination if you don't question it. So all I'm asking you to do is not be brainwashed with this episode. Stop the brainwashing. All you have to do is add the word alleged. Add the word alleged, and now things start to fall into place. So with that in mind, what you did is you got a statement at the end of the month. Now, is that a bill? You think it is because you've been brainwashed. Hold on a second. Yeah. Think about your normal checking account. You get a monthly statement. Is that a bill?
Well, monthly statement? No, that wouldn't be.
No. What it shows is your beginning balance, your deposits, your checks, debit card use, things you've actually authorized or you removed from your account. There might be some bank fees for checks or whatever, and then the bottom balance is your remaining. Just like the CPA who pointed the finger at my face and never paid from a statement, it fits. I'm a guy who had one experience about this, that don't pay from a statement, but you're paying from a statement, which is Satan's words. God is going to say that is a bank issued alleged credit card statement. So it's not a bill, but you're a good person. You're a moral person. You've been lied to. You've been indoctrinated. You've been brainwashed. So you write a check out for $500 to the bank. Am I right?
Right. That is right. Yeah.
So here's the question. Is that the first time the bank has ever received your money? Think about it. Unsolicited credit card comes in the mail. You go to Home Depot, you spend what you thought was a credit card, and then a bill comes that you think is a bill. You write a $500 check out. Is that the first time the bank has ever received your money?
No, it's not.
Yeah. It's the first time the bank has ever received your money. think it through.
Okay.
In the mail, there's a says that you have been approved for a credit card. Great. So you go to the Home Depot, you spend the $500, and then a month later, what you think a bill comes, you write a $500 check out. Is that the first time the bank ever received money from you? When it arrives to the bank, all of a sudden they've got a check from you. Yeah, it'd be the first time. Banks are only set up for loans. So remember my story, when you have no money, you go into a bank and you hope to come out with money, all right?
Yeah.
Now, the opposite is also a loan, and that is in your first, in your show notes, the first link. When you take money and put it into a bank and walk out with less or none, you put it into a savings account or a checking account. That's technically a loan. You have loaned the bank money. That's why the bank can't loan that money to the other depositors or other people who come in asking for a loan. They can't do that because it's a liability on their book sheet, financial plan, their financial books. I'm just kidding. So that's what they do is they accept your money and they hold it in safety, but it's technically a loan. As you spend it down, the loan obligation is less and less. Then if you make a deposit, which is not truly true, you don't make deposits. You're adding more money to the loan. You are loaning money to the bank and you're additionally loaning money because you spent it on your checking account. So, right. So that's what is happening is that you are spending money, putting money into your free checking account. I keep saying free checking account because they didn't charge you for it.
No, they didn't.
So it's a free checking account. Right. Every subsequent purchase has been with your own money. So when you went to Home Depot and bought a $400 sink, it was your $400 you already sent the bank. Yeah, and you have $100 left in your free checking account. But you get a statement that then says you have to pay us $400. Wait a second. Who said I have to put $400? The bank said that. Satan said, put $400 in here or we're going to charge you interest. And if you don't do it fast enough, we're going to charge you a late fee. And that's what they're trying to do is get you into a debt slave. And that's what Satan is all about, is enslaving us.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yes. The enemy only comes to kill, steal, and destroy, and he doesn't care how he has to do it. He'll make it happen.
Yep.
No, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. I'm going to have to listen to this episode a couple times just to...
And feel free to ask me again how to explain it. So maybe you can try to explain it to your audience and see if you get it. But if you don't, I'm here to help you. It's not been an eye-opener. It's just crazy. Well, and is it moral?
Well, it's not moral what they're doing. No, that's why I'm like, I don't like the credit card companies because of how they operate. They hound a person. They take and say, now we got to go to court for this, like all this stuff. And it's like, but like even the loans, every single loan that I've ever taken, they do have the loan. You got to prove your income. You got to prove everything like what we talked about. And if you can't pay for it, they take it away, But
and that's
the credit cards,
that's
they can't come take your stuff.
See, then when you the bank loan, a true bank loan, it's morally you have to pay, and they take it away from you. That's the proper thing,
Yeah,
but
that's the pay Caesar's what's his. Yeah.
Right, but not when you're being deceived by Satan, and that's what the whole point is that this is not a true credit card. So it's the language. So if you stop using Satan's language and use the truth, God's truth, then it's fine. You have to pay the debts you have to pay, which I'm saying 100% right.
Yeah.
But not when you've been deceived to take your own hard-earned money, put it into a free checking account, and then have the bank tell you that you've got to deposit all the money that you spent that month. Well, maybe I don't have money coming in for another month or two. Why can't I leave a balance of 1 penny? The bank will say, at least keep $1 in your account. Okay, so you keep $1 in your account, but you can spend it down 99 down to $1. But this is what the credit cards are doing to you. So how do you get out of your credit card debt? Satan's language. How do you close your free checking account? You had better withdraw the money out of your account first. What are we talking about? Maxing out the card. Maxing out the card, that's immoral, it's illegal. That's Satan's words. So if you say max out the cards, you're talking Satan's talk, and you're leading right down back into the law that you have a debt and you can't get out of it. The judge is going to say, do you have a debt?
Well,
Yes.
yeah.
There you go. Okay. So the true words are, I have a free checking account. I put money into that account. It's my money. I'm going to withdraw it down to zero because I'm going to close the account. And just like I asked you, if I put $25 in the account and they matched it,
Yeah.
then is that immoral? No, it's not immoral to close your free checking account that your own money is in. So
Well, yeah.
withdraw your money, notify the bank you want it closed, and see what happens. And she's gonna go, no,
Yeah.
that's not
No,
gonna
no,
happen.
no, no, no.
But-
I'm thinking about all this. This is very.
Mhm. So now let's go into more of my story. So after I was successful in my credit report, then showing no credit, no 3 credit cards are there anymore. A friend of mine, she gave me a dormant charity, and I revamped it to be credit repair. So I was helping people repair their credits. All you need to do is send a letter to the credit repair agency, say these are fraudulent, there's an error, and by law you have to remove it. And I was very successful. But some of the people had bank issued alleged credit card debt, and I would write a letter explaining what was going on, and it would be off their credit report. For about 1,000 people I helped. But the larger amounts, they would push back. $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 of bank issued alleged credit card debt, they'd put their effort into it. Well, I had an expert witness that was a CPA. So he would write the letter saying, first of all, there is no invoice. So if you have an invoice, bring it on, because that's a debt. And I told my client, you have to pay. 2, that there never was a loan, because there never was a promissory note. And by federal banking regulations, you have to have that. So there is no loan. Then I would have an attorney write a letter that says fraud undoes all contracts. So there is no contractual agreement I have with the bank. So with that said, it was very effective. Then what happens is some of my clients got sued for that large amount, and we had to go to court. I'd have them represent themselves, and there's never a problem, because we would get to court and we would talk to the other side and say, where's the invoice? Where's the thing? And they would have nothing. So they would make an agreement right there on a piece of paper that they would remove it off the credit report and not issue a 1099-C and submit that to the judge as we've resolved this issue. And the judge, I've seen several times, go, what the hell's going on here? This is automatic. You're a debtor. We have all the attorneys. We have all these banks. This is the way it works. It's just, it's a form. It's a method. It's every day we do this. So it's not a big deal. Now all of a sudden you're not going to go after these people. What do you got on them? That's one judge said. What do you got on these people? So that's what happened, is they had nothing. So, but it's when the attorney, when one of my clients didn't want to do it themselves, they had to have an attorney. I would pay for an attorney, and they would lie to me. They would deceive me. They would do anything and everything to say yes, 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 and to get my retainer. So I pay the retainer for my client. We'd go to court, and I had my CPA expert witness right here. He's going to explain to the judge it's not a debt, go into all detail, that there is no loan. And then with the Supreme Court ruling over and over again, fraud undoes all contracts, it was a slam dunk. Well, they do say, this judge, I can't go in front of him arguing this wacky, crazy idea you've got. I got other clients. So you don't hire an attorney for this, but you don't have to do that. What I've done is I have the whole lawsuit figured out. So what you do is you don't file it with court. You want to send this to the bank. So you don't have to file a lawsuit. All you have to do is fill the paperwork out and send it to the bank as if you did. So you pay nothing to the court. You don't have a docket number. And so what you do is you lay out the complaint like I had, explains all the crimes the bank's committing, how you do not want them to issue a 1099-C, because if they do, you're going to file a 3949A. So you have discovery. Now, normally you file a lawsuit and you wait, you go back and forth. Maybe a year later, you've got your discovery. No, you're going to send them right at the beginning the demand for production documents. Okay, it's going to explain how paperwork you want from the bank, which they don't have, like an invoice or a affidavit of debt, someone that's going to swear out that you actually have a debt and a loan from the bank.
Yeah.
The other one is that you have interrogatories, which are questions, and admissions. But here's the best thing, is you have a deposition date. So you are right in the beginning. So I want to talk to somebody who's inside the bank, and 10 days after you answer this complaint, remember, you haven't filed it, but they see where you're going with this. And then here's the best part. You're going to also have the paperwork to file an injunction. Now, Robin, if someone's bothering you, some debt collector is harassing you, you can take them to court and not argue and resolve the issue of a debt. That's not what you're asking for. You're not trying to sue them. All you want the judge to do is to stop the harassment.
Well,
and that we now see in the newspapers, in the papers, and trying to think in the media, is that with Trump doing something, there's always a reaction saying an injunction, and he's got to stop. That's exactly what you want to do. So the bank sees that if they file a lawsuit against you, you'll immediately file an injunction. If you file this, after they answer it, you file it immediately, and in 30 days, they have to bring to court a invoice, outstanding unpaid invoice. They have to bring a certified copy of your promissory note, and what you're asking for is an affidavit of debt. Someone, employee, who's going to put their hand on the Bible with the penalty of perjury, which can be in fines and being in jail. Someone has to swear out that you actually have a debt. If they don't bring those 3 items to court, the judge is going to find them in contempt, and everything stops. So that's the power. So when they get this, and you mail this off to the registered agent, that's anybody who accepts the lawsuits, and they do it automatically. There's not a problem. You can drop it off yourself. You can mail it in. So they get a brick of paperwork. The
sounds like
attorney look at this. Yes, that's the reason why. So they look at this and going, this is going to take me 40 hours at $500. We're looking at $20,000 already up front of legal fees. And we have a deposition. 3 dates are set, because that's what we normally do, is give their side 3 different dates to pick. And they're already going for a and then there's an injunction to be filed, and we have to bring this fake paperwork we know we don't have. So they know what's going on. So they're going to say, what do you want? Click. That's all you're asking them to do. Is what happened to me is 1 click off your credit report, and your bank issued alleged credit card debt is no longer in your credit report. So what do you care?
No, you wouldn't.
I don't care. You're reporting. You're reporting before. You're not reporting now. What do I care? If my score goes up, great.
But now I'm thinking, well, what about like other things? Does this apply just to like the credit card specifically? Like, because like student loans, you don't have to file promissory notes. And then what about like the medical debt? Because like, they have like that ABN that, forgot what the ABN stands for. But anyways, they make you sign it if your insurance doesn't cover something, and then they take and they send it off anyway. And then they sit there and say, you've got a bill now, but the insurance didn't cover it. But there's no credit check. So I'm thinking now those can't be legal then either, can they?
Well, you mentioned 2 things. To start with a student loan, which I personally don't have personal experience with that, but I had a girlfriend who did, but her mother signed, and I tried to do the effort to say, hey, that's fraudulent, and it didn't work. So we did our best for that. But as I kind of think, there might have been a promissory note signed for the student loans.
Okay.
I might be wrong, but if there's no promissory note, then there's no promise to pay. But I don't think so. And on the medical, think about this. This is the same thing as a tire store. You went into the hospital, they used products that they purchased on you, they paid their staff to help you, you walked out and didn't pay, you promised to pay the difference, whether the insurance did. So technically, really, that is a true debt, and you owe that. However, most bankruptcies are brought on because of medical bills.
Yeah, they are.
You just can't afford it. Right.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking of. That's why I'm like, well, I wonder about those 2 things, because I'm like, it's just one of those things. And then they sit there and they send you to collections, and it's like, I thought the statute of limitations on collections for things was like 7 years or something. But it's like, what happens when they keep sending things out?
Each state has its own rules and regulations. So some are longer, some are shorter and stuff like that. And yes, you can stop the harassment by sending a letter, which I did a lot of times for my clients.
Yep.
And then you look at the credit report. And if they're reporting this every month, I show the people, yeah, I can send a letter to the credit report agency. They'll take it off because there's an error. But this company is reporting every month. So we've got to deal with this debt collector who has it on automatically. And that's what we do. We send them a letter saying this is fraudulent. There never was a loan. And if you claim there's a debt, please provide a certified copy of the invoice or a certified copy of the promissory note. And we want an affidavit of debt. So someone in your company who's demanding from Robin that you have a debt, well, then prove it. Someone inside your company raise their hand on a Bible and swear on the penalty of perjury that you have a debt. I sent thousands of these out for my clients over 10 years, and I only got one back from a debt collector, and it wasn't notarized. So I took that and mailed it back to the attorney of the debt collection company. And I said, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but one of your employees signed this affidavit of debt, but he failed to have it notarized. Would you please notarize this? Never heard from that company again.
Oh, that's awesome. Because no, I'm just like thinking of like all these different things, like how a person gets you. Because I'm thinking, yeah, Satan, he likes to lie, that's for sure. And he twists things. That's what I'm like figured out in like Adam and Eve story. Like he twisted it so much that he made Eve focus on lack, because that was the first sin of humanity, was lack. Got her focusing on everything she didn't. She had everything except for that one thing. That's what he did. And then he twisted the words. And then like when he said about the language, the law is language, or I'm probably said that backwards.
Language is law. Right. No,
yes.
They're both. Law is language, language is law.
Yeah. So then when we're saying alleged, that would make sense, because then, yeah, it's not a debt. It's not a credit card, because it's a gift card, because you don't, even if you apply for one, there's still nothing like an actual real note. So no, that makes a lot of sense, because you don't got to prove it. I'm just like, all of the things are starting to be undone right now, but that's still amazing though, because it's like, you're 100% right. We are brainwashed into all of this stuff. And then like, even in the Bible, I cannot remember what chapter and what verse it is, but even in that, it says that from our parents, when they choose to not do anything to fix themselves, it gets passed on by law, legal rights, that children have to deal with it. And if the children choose to do nothing, then it goes on to the next generation. Hence, we get the generational trauma, generational curses, generational brainwash, indoctrination, schools. Great example. But no, I appreciate this very much. And I'm sure my listeners do as well, because it's like, this is something that I'm 100% sure they probably never even thought of this, because I never even have.
Right. And they're going to go through the struggle of morality, which I agree 100%. And again, I say, don't believe me. And go back to the show notes, look at those 3 links and look them up and do your own research. Ask your own CPA, send this podcast to him or her, and have her look at this. The book has a very funny scenario of a courtroom. This is what happened to me and several of my CPA expert witnesses. So it's a compilation of events. So this the courtroom scene is where an attorney is representing the credit card debtor. And so the judge says to the attorney, Mr. Attorney, do you have a credit card? Yes, I do. And do you make charges on it every month? Yes, I do. And do you get a statement at the end of the month? Yes, I do. And do you pay it? Yes, I do. And what if you don't pay it? Well, I'll be harassed by collections and it might take me to court and I'll be in front of you. Exactly. So I'm going to recommend to the bar that you be disbarred because you have lied to your client. You've deceived her. You're taking money, but it's pro bono. That doesn't matter. And you brought a fraud to the court. So I'm going to wait. Can my client at least have a day in court? Okay. And now you bring the CPA up and you say, the judge asked me a question. Do I have a credit card? Was that truthful that I said I did? No, you were wrong. You've been lied to, indoctrinated, and brainwashed. So you read through that story, have your CPA go through that as if they're on the stand and they're going to go, yeah, I never seen this before.
Yeah, no, so that's something to think about. What is the name of your book, by the way, for our audience, so they can get in contact with you, get a hold of your book, and just be able to follow you and ask you questions? Because I'm sure
Oh, sure.
I'm not the only one with questions.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. It'll be in your show notes too. And it's called Forgive and Forget: How to Nuke Your Credit Card Debt. And Tommy A. Kilpatrick is on Facebook, so you can find me that way. And my email will be in your show notes. So it's very simple to find me. I offer a free 15-minute consultation. And if you do that, I'll give you my $69 book for free. So all I want you to do is to get out of this situation. But you see, you're using Satan's language. To get out of debt? No. To get out of the situation you think you have a debt? Yes, by closing your checking account. It's that simple. And I can help you along the way. And what I'm really looking for is a client who would have a business, who's looking at maybe going out of business because of so much debt. And because of me, they might have $200,000 of bank issued alleged credit card debt they don't have. Their board of directors have all maxed out their cards, again, Satan language, and their employees are all suffering. So the CPA sits down with the whole audience of all the employees and everybody there and said, look, this guy Tommy's right. I never thought of him before, but there's no invoice. We only pay from an invoice. There's no invoice to the bank. And two, they're never with a loan. And this is what they've done. They've duped us. They've lied to us and brainwashed us. I'm telling you from a CPA point of view that this is not wrong. You could even have your priest there too, or your clergy person say this is not immoral because Satan has deceived you. So you don't have to pay Caesar when it's not a debt. So
well, yeah, that's true.
Your vice president is most likely an attorney and says this is completely legal because fraud undoes all contracts. We do not have a contractual agreement with a fraudster, with a criminal. The courts are not set up so that a criminal can bring you in as a victim and continue the harassment and continue the crime against you. So we're going to send a letter to the bank. I have all the paperwork done out. We're going to file a lawsuit, but not file it. We're going to show the bank we've got 23 people in this class action lawsuit. And that's what all we're asking them to do is click. We're asking them to click it off your credit report, off our credit report, and off the company's credit report. And is that okay? Do you want to sign on? But first, you better withdraw your money. And I know what you're going to say. Max out my card. It's your money. So for most people that talk to me, I find them money. Usually about $2,000 for them, about $2,000 for me. They didn't even know. So I ask them, how much you want to give me? And they say 50-50, great. If they say 30-40, 40-60-40, fine. 70-30, I don't care. One more dollar to the charity would fine with me. So what I do with this is I'm here in the Philippines. I teach farmers how to build dome houses with bamboo and vertical gardening so they don't have to bend over anymore. It's 10,000 years ago. And I'm also opening up free self-managed medical care clinics for the community. So the money I get goes right into what I'm doing here at God's Work.
That's awesome. That is absolutely amazing. So we already know how to get in contact with you. We know your book. They're all going to be in the show notes. And so I just want to remind our audience before not before, but when we close our show today, be sure to subscribe and share Healing for the Soul podcast with everyone you know, especially this episode. Think about how many loved ones could be actually saving money instead of being stressed and burnt out and worn out over these credit cards that are gift cards. And I encourage you to follow me, Robin Stoltman, on social media and my guest, Tommy Kilpatrick, as well. And so thank you for your time and energy while listening to today's episode of Healing for the Soul podcast.
That's all for now, folks. Make sure you submit to thank you for fun. Tap that follow button. Subscribe. Quack, quack. Bye-bye. Well, next time. Now you got it.